Yo, what's going on, TAP? That's right. This your boy Play Beat chillin'. I got my mans with me. How's everybody doing? I got Rev. We got Scott in the building.
Yes.
For you guys, it's been a week since we last were here, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, sorry about the video last week. Your boy here has to pay more attention to the fact that his memory cards are all maintenanced and emptied before we start the show.
It's all good. It happens to the best of us.
Well, it was either like we had with Heather when we first talked to Heather, and I didn't even hit the record button in the first place.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. Well, remember when we used to record music, we'd be in the studio, and I'd forget to record a whole track, and we're trying to mix it down. We're like, hey, where's the other takes at?
Yeah, but that's when we had to do each take
individually. Yeah,
and we had to,
old school. We're doing the old school recording.
CD player or the CD recorder, and then play the CD. And then, we
were using a VCR to record vocals.
Oh, yeah,
that was awesome, man.
Yeah,
so, we took it old school
back in the day. But anyway, so this is round 2, and it's going to be a lightning round. So if I had my. There we go. Thank you. So there was a lot of topics that I threw around in my own head that I wanted to talk about. We had a really good discussion talking about. You're not gonna get me. You're not gonna get me.
I got you anyway. Look.
Yeah, I know. You threw me off. Now I don't know what I was talking about. We had a good conversation last week.
That's me. Whoa.
Is that everybody? Check their phones.
I'm like, that's a creditor. Hang up. Don't make contact with a creditor. Because then your 7 years starts all over again. It won't fall off your credit report.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true as far as I know.
That's not a ghetto stuff.
Yeah, that's they make contact with you. Then your 7, 8 years, or whatever it is, starts all over again.
Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna look into that. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if it's true.
Don't take financial advice from this show. That's all I'm gonna say.
Consult your tax consultant.
So, anyways, we had a really good discussion that kind of went. We touched on a lot of different. I tried to keep it structured, but of course that never happens. But it's fine.
But you know what? I think that's what people enjoy about our show. The one listener that's listening, I think that's why he likes it, because compared to other shows.
Wait, you don't want to misgender. Surprise.
That's why I said that person.
Surprise. That is the topic of our show.
Jesus.
So
I'm sure them is happy.
The Z or
Z or whatever it is.
Anyways. So I wanted to talk a little bit about culture, mainly what we see. There was some comments that I had seen online by one of our participants here today that I thought were extremely valid, because I believe that a lot of people, in terms of the Supreme Court nominee that we're seeing right now, Ketanji Jackson Brown, that I think a lot of people in the onset, that were not staunch partisan Republicans were kind of like, we'll give this person a fairer hearing. I think a lot of people were doing that. I believe people that kind of like were in that middle road, libertarian type, non-associated, independent, were willing to give this person a fair hearing. But I do believe a lot of that went out the window when our contestant could not answer a basic third grade. I don't know. I know they don't. They don't learn anatomy or what did she say? She's not a biologist. They don't learn biology, and
she couldn't explain what these two things represent.
That is a good point.
That's why when you say I need a male or a female, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, so she was asked by one of the Republican representatives, if she could define what a woman is.
Oh,
and she refused.
Ovaries.
Well, yes. She refused to answer.
Remember on Kindergarten Cop, it goes, boys have a penis and girls have a vagina. I was like, they knew that in the 90s. Like, come on.
We've regressed, apparently.
Jeez.
Progression is just a fancy word for regression. It's as simple as
that's a good point.
So I thought it would be interesting because in all reality, I did, whatever you felt about the Justice Kavanaugh hearings, regardless of which way it went, what was the girl's name? The one, the second one Trump put
Amy
Coney Barrett. Yeah, Amy Coney Barrett. I thought that it was fine, and I understood that both those justices from Trump were actually kind of like not staunched, like conservative.
That word gets me
staunched. staunch. Yeah, it's just a word.
Where'd you learn that? You must have called 209-214-9472. Call us, man. That's our hotline.
So, but they weren't like conservatives. Like they had some liberal rulings that if you really look at their record.
Sure, yeah.
So and all that's just the way it goes because it's safer. I do believe it's
always safer in the middle of the road, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
But
That's where I played as a kid most of the time.
Yeah, right.
in the middle of the road.
Remember car?
Yeah. Oh man! I was gonna be the car.
Yeah. I was gonna get a touchdown.
You got to stop it with the side. Anyways, just what the heck are we talking about? But a lot of people actually, I believe, were giving this nominee from, man, even before this person was nominated, the fact that the state of our country, where the president would come out and say that we're only going to look at African American woman.
Yeah.
That in itself says a lot. And secondly, that this woman cannot define for you what a woman is. Now let that sink in a little bit.
It's like an oxymoron, isn't it? It's like I'm stuck in a paradox.
So anyway, so what like I know you expressed a little bit of opinions on it, and I know it's par for the course for our culture. But where do you see it deviating? At what point did it deviate to this point? That simple objective truth has now just been ushered into the ocean of subjectivity.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. I was one of those sort of libertarian-minded people, and I thought it's probably about time for us to have an African American on the Supreme Court. I had like pretty liberal.
Wait, Clarence Thomas.
Oh, we're going to have to edit that out. Oh, my gosh. I forgot about the guy. Well, he's in trouble now, too, because his wife is, he wasn't black enough.
Well, his wife
look at the trouble he's in,
His wife is white, so I guess like that. No.
So now he's a Mexican?
She was at the insurrection. And anyways, I thought, okay, we'll give it a fair shake, and all that. And I was like, her judicial rulings were kind of middle of the road, like you said, and all that. But then there was that one question that's so fundamental, like my second grader. No, not even that, man. Like a toddler could understand.
My daughter's not even in grade school.
Right.
She could answer the question. I'm like, okay, so if you can't answer a most fundamental basic question about human anatomy and biology, and we're going to have you sitting on the Supreme Bench of the Supreme Court making supreme decisions about our land, this is chaos. It's utter chaos.
She might as well just go work at Taco Bell with all the Supremes.
Well, right. No, there's sour cream in those. That's right. That's racist.
Sorry.
That's sexist. Yeah, because only guys or what's the other?
I was gonna make a joke about something else, but probably
it's white.
It's not becoming.
You get a taco and you get a burrito and you have chicken nuggets. Boom, that's how it works out. But
I'm learning new things every day.
I know, right?
Yeah, you should call.
Yeah, 209-214-9472.
We got email too. We got Facebook and all that. But anyways, no, I wanted.
For me, it's like, where did common sense go? It's like in this country or around the world, it's like common sense was just thrown out of the door.
That's a privilege of the elite, man.
Yeah, it's one.
But remember, we grew up with common sense. They taught it in school. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Don't touch things if it ain't yours. Treat people with respect. Or were those more lining biblically? Because I remember growing up, things were that way. I pledge allegiance. You treat what is that? Honor thy neighbor. Things like that. We learned that in school. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right. And that is definitely not taught today.
And all that's gone. And then look at the society, and I hate to sound one way or another, because I'm a spiritualist or whatever, but once you took God out of the equation, though, look at what's going on around us. And it's weird, and I know a lot of atheists, AV, everybody's gonna be like, no, it was, but honestly, from being real, being honest.
Yeah, look at it.
When you're just being honest, you can't hide the facts at this point. Once the church and God and all that was taken out of mainstream society, society went to shit. Be real with you. Oh, sorry. Oh, in the name of Jesus. Oh, God. I got to give you one of these.
We deal in reality, So where's my holy water here?
Give me some ashes. I need ashes. We got to do this.
I need a young priest and old priest.
I'm just kidding. My Catholic folks, I love you guys, too. We're all the same people in God's eyes, right?
Unless you're Calvinist.
No. He's got a real point here, though, because I use this as a sermon illustration once, going back in the day when God's word was kind of governing morality in the way that you were
I couldn't think of
right?
that word. Yeah, morality.
So like you look at the federal legal code, it was about that thick, like through the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Then more and more secularism, less and less influence of the Bible, Christianity, and God in there. And now, like, the federal legal code is like 3 feet tall.
Shoot.
And so it just illustrates the fact that if we will not be governed by the law of God, we will be governed by the law of man. And people are like, but the Bible's so hard to read. And I'm like, it's only 66 books about this much. You read the federal code. That's what you're governed by every day. In fact, there is a Twitter feed called A Felony a Day, in which a guy just goes through the federal code and says, you've probably been guilty of committing a felony today that you didn't even know existed.
We're probably committing one right now.
Probably, definitely. Felony of good taste, felony.
Well, no, but getting back to your point, I think you make a really valid point that I think so.
Wait, I made a good point?
Oh, yeah,
nice.
yeah. Well, we got to highlight that. We got to put the date.
I'll write it down.
Yeah. Somebody vlog this right now.
We'll have to make a special. No, but you're exactly right, and I think a lot of people don't want to admit it, but
that's the problem. They don't.
They don't want to admit it. And like I say, whether or not it's the God or the morality thing, or you took in the Bible out, or not praying in school. Okay, I understand that, but the reality is, and this is actually, I'm in this systematic theology class right now at church, and one of the things we're going to be going through is existence for God. One of them is the moral argument. If we all got to be governed by a shared value system, but that value system cannot be an invention of man, because then it doesn't mean anything, because then it's based on the objectivity of one person's point of view. So that's why a belief in God denotes a belief in a transcendent morality that will oversee over anybody, because it's coming from a place that is not in the physical earthly realm. It's coming from above. It's coming from, well, not, I don't know, people say, oh, above, you mean heaven up there? No, I mean it's
the firmament.
The firmament. It's coming.
Bro, you can't say trans.
Ascendant.
Oh,
you can't say ascendant.
Whoa. I was gonna give you one of these. Yeah, he was about to say, but he can't say that, so we're gonna it out. You know what I'm saying? So, my bad. I forgot that button was there. I'm like, go ahead, proceed. Now you want to play with it? Yeah, I was hoping you'd say it again. Say it again.
So anyway, morality has to be transcendent, because it can't.
Every time you say that now,
you're gonna.
I'm like a third grader.
No, but you're making a good point. Like any good business, when you get hired, they sit down and they hand you a job description. It's a written down. It's not a personal thing about how you feel about me.
Yeah.
It's an objective document that says, this is what we're going to hire you to do. This we're going to get paid for, and all that, right? Now, if you take that out and you hire me, or I hire you, if I don't have that job description, then every day your employment is contingent on how I feel about you. There's no objective outside standard. And that's what the law of God has provided an entire culture for over 200 years here in America, at least. And now that third body document out there is gone, what we're left with is whatever people feel.
And that's dangerous, because I could feel a certain way. You could feel a certain, you know what I mean? And I think, but honestly,
especially after one of these.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
but honestly, like, I remember growing up, we were taught, hey man, treat people with respect, treat people the way you want to be treated. All these things that you could contribute to the Bible, or just common sense, just common courtesy, I should say.
But why? And that's the question. But why?
Right, because we all of us at one point or another went to church with an aunt or a grandma or a mom or somebody. We had some religious background, whatever denomination it chose to be at that time, but we all had that universal understanding that there is a higher power. And I think a lot of people don't have that anymore, because they feel they don't have the need for it, because I'm just going to go with what feels good in this particular, you know what I mean? But therein is the problem, though. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny, because that is an admission that their higher power is how they feel.
Right.
That's what governs behavior and morality and ethics.
Well, there is no, philosophically and realistically, especially when you look at the Bible and Scripture, there is no such thing as neutrality. So a lot of people like to say, well, my belief, my unbelief it means I don't have any stake in the game, so to speak. Yeah. But the reality is you're feeling that belief. The fact that you even believe is a belief.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the fact that you don't believe is
recognizing.
You have a belief.
Well, I think what it is for a lot of people now, and like when you look at schools' curriculums for our kids that are in school, they have this sense of entitlement or this lack of taking responsibility, personal responsibility is what I see is lacking in this society today. Because, oh, well, you know what? The government's going to take care of me. Or, you know what? I feel this way, so therefore I'm entitled to this or that or the other, you know? And
well, okay, so, but that comes from an idea, like just like we talked about. So if you're going to remove God, there's, like I was talking about neutrality.
Yeah.
It's going to be filled with something. Like the God.
Well, yeah, we live in a vacuum, so yeah.
No, we don't live in a vacuum.
No, but you know, and we do in the earth, in this globe. We're in a vacuum, right? But every time you live in a vacuum and there's a void, something's gonna come fill that void.
Yeah.
So you get to pick. We get to pick what fills that void in our personal lives. So, for instance, me personally, if I have this void, I'm feeling miserable or I have anxiety, and I'm speaking on my personal behalf. I know what I'm missing. I'm missing some spiritual aspect. You know, I'm spiritually dead without God or whatever, what have you, right? We could spin that wheel 100,000 times. But the point is, I could fill that void with alcoholism. I could fill that void with gambling. I could fill that void with whatever I choose. See, that's where our free will comes in. But if I don't have that spiritual background to lean on, or that knowledge of a higher power, whatever that may be, I think that's what kids are missing in this time. That they're not being taught those things anymore. Hey, you know, because remember when we were growing up, hey man, I'm having a bad day. Well, you know, God is God, or trust God, or just pray on it, or just, you know what I mean? We all heard that at one point in our lives. Am I correct, right? Oh, sorry. And sorry. No, that's cool. But
you were on a roll there.
But I think that's what's missing in our youth in this society is that, you know what, just do what feels good. You don't need to worry about the consequences or how come he has it better than me? I deserve to have his millions too. You know. But I think it all boils back down to this not having that foundation that you can gain from God or religion or whatever. You know, I'm trying to be universal here. But, you know, that foundation, like, it's true what they say. You could build on rock, you can build on sand. I think we've been building on sand this whole time, and now we're starting to sink. You know what I mean?
It's like some very simple thoughts here, right? If you don't have to answer to someone else, like if my behavior, if I don't have to answer to like a God or a higher power, then all I have to answer to is myself. But if I have to answer to myself, then there's really no accountability. So what does it matter? What do I care? I'll just do what I want.
Well, and then I think that's where people also fall into this false narrative or this trap. I call it a trap. Where, okay, well, if there's no God and I could rely, I'm self-reliant, but once I fail, then I put my anger on God. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like, well, I chose to go in this alone, but how can I blame God if I chose to do it? You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's where the blinders come in. And then who do we rely on? Big time social media to tell me how I should feel. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that could fill that void, but I want to kind of go back to exactly what we're seeing in the culture. You know, this whole push right now from the government at federal level it's not just the Supreme Court justice, but it's also the Attorney General, what's his name?
It's all of them.
Austin, the guy who runs the military.
Yeah, I don't know.
Secretary of Defense. Like, they're pushing this woke narrative that it is stooped in Marxism. So whenever you take God out of the equation, something's going to have to fill it. And when you remove God in a society like ours, it's going to be filled with what? A governmental system.
Yeah.
That they're going to look to. And that's what we've seen. I think that's what you're pointing to.
Yeah.
Well, we talked a little bit last week about Ukraine and Russia, right? Some of the differences that are there. And the reason why there's such a stark contrast there is because one side represents a governmental system in which there is no God but the state. That's Russia. Yeah. And then you got the Ukrainians over here who, you know, they got a plurality of religions there. They're not a Christian nation, you know, by any stretch of the imagination per se, but they have the idea that there is something outside of themselves that they're living for, whereas the Russian state is living for its own perpetuation. That's it.
Right. So getting back to that, so it's like what was your initial thought? Because for me, when I heard the response from this nominee was that I kind of felt sad, because you hear it on TikTok, you hear it on social media. The teachers are talking about all this wokeism and stuff like that.
The more I hear woke, the more I think they're sleeping. They're not awake. They're not awake. They're asleep. They're zombies, bro.
You hear it from General Milley in the Defense Department. You hear it from Austin, the Secretary Austin. You're hearing it from a nominee. Is that not worrying, alarming?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's the mainstreaming in every sphere of radical secularism at this point. And so I think it's one of the things that worries me is, if you want to talk about there being a spiritual nature or component to the American experience, is that the deism, the biblical theism that has been at the heart of it for, 250, 300 years is now gone. This is uncharted territory for us as a people, as a nation, as a culture, as a society. We don't yet know where it's going to take us, but I think we have some pretty clear indications. If you can't answer what is a woman,
we're in trouble.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
No, yeah, that's exactly, and that's what's worrying me, because it's like, how far is it going to go? Because anything that gets passed down by the state, exactly what we see in Canada, for instance. Whereas pastors, and I think you've known a guy who's got, I think, arrested.
Yeah, so James Coates was a pastor that was arrested because they continued to hold services despite the health mandates and the forced closures of churches and schools and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but not just that, though. Now that they passed, was it Bill C-4 or B, or whatever it was, the bill that were that you couldn't openly express your disagreements with.
Yeah, so evangelism, as we understand it in America, is now illegal in Canada.
I forget they don't have a freedom of speech, huh?
Well, because that they're people assume just because they're a Western nation that they do. The United States is uniquely special that they're probably one of the only, if maybe the only nation that has institutionalized the freedom of speech. But now there's ways of curbing it.
Well, you know what makes us even more special than that? We're the only nation in the world that has a Second Amendment saying you have the Second Amendment to overthrow a tyrannical government, even if it's your own government.
That is uniquely
Not
different.
only do you have the obligation, you have the right to do so for you and your future generations.
Yeah.
I mean, what other country is going to say that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're slowly letting that go.
Yeah, well, no, and
You know what I mean?
That's
For
what's
what?
scary. That's
You know what I
scary.
mean? What's the American dream? We don't even know what it is anymore.
No, we don't.
You
But going back to looking at the way things are going, the pollings are showing right now for the midterm elections, which are coming up in November, that there is a suspected red tsunami. Now, in light of having a lot of worries and concerns about the way things are going after Joe Biden got elected, is the red wave the answer?
Well, clearly no, because every time the Reds are in power, there's a blue wave that follows. Every time the Blues are in power, there's a red wave that follows. And all we see is this just an escalator that goes one direction. And we're just taking it one step at a time with every switch of the tide and all that. There is no salvation in politics because there is no difference between the two parties. They are fundamentally fueled from the same source. They fundamentally share the same worldview. They fundamentally have the same goal. The acquiring and the retaining and the expression of power. So there is no hope in government. No hope in government.
That reminds me of Jesse Ventura. Remember he was saying the same thing?
He's going to say that for a long time.
Yeah, I was coaching him.
Well, I just, my biggest worry, and I mean, it's not necessarily a worry because we all know, right, you and I know where our trust lies. But it is getting to a point where we're speaking freely about some of the biblical truths that we've been talking about.
It's going to be a crime
today.
Yeah.
Will put churches and anybody, not just churches, but anybody that disagrees in a very peculiar spot.
Well, I think my biggest fear is that's going to end up being a point where, okay, now Christians are being persecuted because they're preaching against the government. Now we're all on some watch list now. Thanks.
Yeah, well.
But it's like what happened to freedom of religion? What happened to freedom of speech and all these things that were held true to us as in the beginning? Or all of a sudden,
but we all shared certain values, and that's what made freedom of speech possible.
Right.
When you don't, when the majority of America does not share, and that's why people have been saying civil war.
They can ostracize certain
Civil
groups
war
or
is
whatever.
coming.
Yeah.
Because there has been an ideological divide in the country over the last, and it hasn't been recent. This is not just because of Trump.
No, but nothing ever happens overnight. It's a progression. It's slowly, and if you look back in the timeline, even within our lifetime, you can see when things started changing.
But watch this. This is what I was saying earlier about that job description. It's always been this way, but when you had that document between, you could be on either side of it and you could talk to each other over it and you had something to govern that conversation. When you got rid of that, you removed that, now it's just how you make me feel and how I'm going to retaliate against that.
And that's dangerous because what if I'm having a bad day and like my mom's calling me.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, Mom, I'll call you back. My bad. Hang up. I'm a man today.
Oh, they dropped. Huh?
He's gonna pay for it later,
Hey,
though.
my voice got deeper. My voice got deeper. I'm sound like Barry White. I'm gonna turn off the lights, light a candle.
But getting back to the conversation, you're right. It didn't happen. It wasn't because of Trump. I think Trump, what Trump did, the bull in the China shop, basically.
You can't say China.
Oh, that's right.
That's racist.
Sorry. So, but he, I think what he did is he was such a surprise and a shock, and he shook everything up. Not necessarily in a good way. I mean, a lot of people applauded a lot of things he did. There were certain things, yes, that you could applaud.
Right.
But I think what all that he did was basically just bring to light, because he's not a good guy. It's as simple as that. He's not a good guy. However you feel about him, I feel more positive towards him than negative.
Yeah.
But he's not a good guy per se.
Right.
So we knew where he stand. He didn't hide his cards. Like, you knew where he stand, and
that's what I admired about him.
That's what shook everything
yeah.
up. But so now we can see it clearly. And what happened
Purely?
is purely.
We can see it purely, guys.
You can see it purely.
Yeah.
Purely. No, but what I mean, though, is just that when he shook it up, you saw the rising up of all those leftists, the communists, the Marxists.
Well, it's like they say, you separate the whey from the cream. You know what I mean? So to speak, you got to see the line now that was so blurred before. You know what I mean? Like, okay, now we got to see the division that I think a lot of people were blind to previous, because Trump, yeah, like you said, he's not a great guy. I don't know him personally, but at the same time, if he didn't institute the things that were already in law, then we wouldn't know there were those laws. So now we have the chance to change them or do what we got to do. But in the moment, we didn't know. We were just, a lot of people were hot-headed. Oh, he's a racist because all these things going on in Mexico. Like, well, you know what? Now that we know those laws exist, we can change them. That's the beauty of our democracy. You know what I mean?
No, you would know this, for sure, Rudy. But I was largely critical of the entire Trump presidency. But the one thing that he did deliver, and this may be the salvation of America, is to remind all of us as citizens that politics is local. So get involved at your school board, get involved on your city council, get involved, and you can change things.
The pushback has been great. Not great as in, well, both. I think it's been good, but also it's been a huge effort. That has been huge. It's been huge. All the parents of school board meeting. It's been huge. Go vote. But yeah, he would
I heard
be so
this
proud.
voice coming over my head here, and I thought it's so lifelike.
You have to kiss it and light a candle next to it. It's Saint Trump now. I guess we're all Catholic now. Sorry, Brian.
A little delay, but
no, but oh God, what was I saying? Jeez,
I don't know. You said a lot, but
I know. Yeah, that thing. Okay.
Yeah. I think ultimately what it comes down to in this society, in our time, okay, now here's the thing.
Okay, go ahead. I remember what.
Do you feel like we dropped the ball? Or do you think it was our predecessors that dropped the ball?
No.
Like, meaning our parents and our grandparents that allowed this to happen? Or does it fall on our shoulders that we didn't? I mean, I'm not saying that we didn't teach our kids, because we all did in our own part, but I'm saying as a society. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, what do you guys think on that?
I think Scott has a good take on this, but I'm going to answer this. I think the majority of this country is and I could be wrong about this, but I'm not wrong about this. But the majority of the country is white, and I think what happened over the last 30 years is white guilt really took a hold. You had a lot of people that were more conservative leaning, that would typically be more conservative leaning households, families. Most of them, you got to remember, in all reality, a lot of the mainline Democrats are all white. And it stems that they started preaching by nature of your whiteness, you're racist and you don't even know it. And look what
I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
But that's how this started. Like
coming
out of the civil rights movement, that's in my estimation, that's where wokeness started. A lot of you got to remember, the majority of the country is white. There's African Americans make up 12% of the population. Hispanics are probably like at 15 or between 15 and 20.
Right.
The rest of it's filled.
Well, the ones they could count.
Yeah,
it's Mexicans. We don't open that door. We're like, oh shit, and that's either Jehovah's Witness or census guy. Don't answer that shit.
I cannot respond.
Yeah, you're not allowed. You just sit there and look.
But my thing is, there's no need. Okay, you know what? Yeah, our history, it is what it is, but it's a colorful history nonetheless, right? No pun intended. I swear, I didn't even mean that. I didn't mean that.
Colors.
We should put that soundtrack colors. But anyway, but I think this woke movement are instituted by a bunch of people that are uneducated, in my opinion, because you look back at, people want to throw slavery out there, right? That's a big thing, the Native Americans, all this stuff. But people forget in Africa, they were being enslaved by Africans.
Yeah.
Native Americans would enslave they would conquer another tribe. They would enslave those people.
Yeah.
It's just human nature. At every point in history, or should I say at some point in history, every race has either been enslaved or been the one slaving other people.
Yeah.
White people, black people, Mexicans, all of us. We're all guilty of it.
But the difference is we haven't experienced it like the way that we've experienced what we can look and see in history, in our recent history. But my point is that's where wokeism started. So once you get to that point, okay, so
I hate calling it that. I think there's sleepism. We call it sleepism.
Here is an people that have been subjected and
but you want to talk about like my cousin was telling me about systemic racism, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Okay, there's scholarships for blacks, Mexicans. They don't have one for Asians. They don't have one for Indians. They don't even have one for white people.
No.
I could apply for a college scholarship just based on being Mexican. I could apply if I was African American. I could use the same thing. How come white people can't do that? You want to talk about systemic racism?
Yeah.
How come white people, Asians? Here's the statistic behind it. The richest people in America are Indians from India and Asians.
Yep.
Right? How come? Where's their scholarship though? Oh, just because they got money? Like,
well, okay. It's funny you say that.
You know what I'm saying? But
you've been quiet.
But the point I'm trying to get across here. You know what I mean?
No, you're exactly right.
The system is.
Wait. Yale Law School are one of the major Ivy League University is being sued by Asian Americans because they're discriminating against them because they would score the highest on the test, but because they were Asian, they wouldn't let them in, so they would have to. They actually had to find a African American or Hispanic.
See, but see, these woke people don't know this stuff, and that's why I say they're not woke.
But it's starting to.
They're
That's why you're seeing the pushback. That's why whether in the schools, the parents that
I'm all mad. I didn't even graduate high school, and I'm pissed off.
Yeah, no, and that's what
it's because I was Mexican. That's why.
No, but and that's what I mean. The pushback is great because now these suburban middle income or middle class, upper class white people are starting to. I hate that's council.
But there's no other way to say. Yeah, I get you. Yeah,
we have him here, so it's okay.
We have a token white guy.
I sanction all of this as your token white guy. No,
he's not throwing holy water on us.
No, this. I'm quiet because I'm thinking. I live in a multi, ethnic neighborhood. It is everything you're describing. It is middle of the middle class. You know, everybody's driving a 10-year-old car. They got kids in school. They're just trying to make it work. You know, and all that. Yeah. But to my neighbor next to me is Mexican. The guy behind me is African American. We have some people of an Asian descent down the road. And like when we see each other on the street, it's just like, sup, like
neighbors.
it's nothing.
Yeah.
And so I always like to try to remind people that this stuff, this wokeism, this controversy, it started as all controversies do. And that is an academic elite intellectualism. And it is a power play. It is a way to get people mad so you can manipulate them because the easiest way to manipulate people is alcohol, sex, and anger, And so mix
Who taught you that hate speech?
Well, I'm white. I was born with it. It's my privilege. When I came out of the maternity ward, I had a toolbox.
You want to hear something funny? Sorry to cut you off. But my buddy, he's a white guy, right? So it's all right. It's from my white folks.
As long as you say that.
Yeah. Okay. Insert white guy name here.
You're good. Go ahead.
Right.
Am I exerting my privilege there? You can speak now, Mexican.
Sound like Biden now. Is there a 3-strike law now? But yeah, so he posted on Facebook. He goes, "My white privilege is waking up early, working hard every day to feed those on welfare. That's my white privilege." I was like, "Yo, it's sad but true." You know what I'm saying?
That is a sentiment, but it goes across the board. And this is the interesting thing that we're seeing, not just with the pushback of these traditional conservative leaning families that have been voting Democrat because they were told that they were racist, so they felt the Republican or the Democrat Party said we're the party of these certain minority groups, but that's not the case. So they're finally realizing they're pushing back, going to these meetings because now it affects their children. Once you start messing with the children,
the cheering.
That's where the
you know what's crazy though.
But wait, I was going to say one more thing too, though, and you're also seeing equally a pushback amongst a lot of the minorities that are now registering either as Republican or voting conservative because they're realizing, and it's kind of funny. it's like this is how racist I think Democrats are, right? So for all these years, all the they'd say all the white people have been in control and this and like that. As soon as you start seeing a real big push for minorities that are entering into government and
they
positions
changed the
of
song
power,
on you.
they're changing it into more of a socialist.
That's why I'm saying it's all about the power.
Yeah,
it's all about the power.
But you know what? To speak on that,
can't enjoy it now. We can't enjoy the privilege.
But to speak on it, if you go back, like our my grandma, and all them, like our grandparents, I think they had more Republican values. But they were duped into thinking that was a Democratic way of thinking, or the Democrat way of thinking. But I know my grandma was more Republican leaning. You know, that old school flavor, like, hey, you work hard, you make your own way. You know, you don't depend on nobody. You know, you could achieve anything you put your mind to, so long as you work hard for it. You know, work hard enough for it. And those to me are those are the values that I grew up with. You know, love God and believe in God and whatever. But the main ones were work hard and don't depend on nobody.
Yeah.
Those were the main things as minorities, whites, all of us. Because you know what? And let's face it, I hate using that word minority. To me, that's like that word paranormal. Because you go in the hood, right? There's that token white family. They're the minority there.
Yeah.
And they're going through the same struggles we all are. You know what I mean? In that neighborhood or what have you.
Okay, so there's
an
ideology tied for the usage of that word. It's basically that mentality is the majority will by default always oppress the minority. Okay, but that's not the case in our modern age. It has to be invented.
Yeah.
It has to be manufactured to continue to promote this agenda of wokeism and systemic racism, which I'm not going to say never existed, because I think it did, but it doesn't exist in the capacity that I think holds people back. I think you're exactly right. By people not taking personal responsibility and setting up a plan for their life and to succeed in the way that they want to succeed,
depending on everybody
hard,
else,
and they feel they have a right. It's all about equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity.
Right.
There has been never a time in our country where more people had the opportunity. Free education.
Preach it, brother.
All that stuff, you just take advantage of it. If you don't want to take advantages, okay, that's fine. You have the opportunity.
Right. Well, you look at people come from other countries, right?
Oh, yeah.
They come here and they become successful. They open businesses. They're doctors, whoop-de-whoop. And they came from a country where they didn't have free education.
I want a doctor that can speak English.
But, you know, and a lot of people...
like a white guy now.
But, you know, I remember growing up, like, man, look at these Asians. Like, I hate, these Filipino people, because we grew up in the West Side, a bunch of Filipino people. But
Cambodians.
Cambodians. They'd come here with no money.
What you get? Which sucked.
And then all of a sudden, next week, my tia's getting her nails done by. But you know what? And I don't mean that in any disrespect.
Yeah, that's not a stereotype. That's right.
But you know what? They did it. They came here. They opened up their salon. They moved out the hood.
Yeah.
We're here in a country of milk and honey, if you will, and we can't even graduate high school, case in point. But you know what I mean? It's like, what are they teaching them that they're not teaching us, right? Well, what they're teaching them is entrepreneurship, you know?
Yeah.
That's something we don't learn here.
We're going to put your GED on the board.
Yeah, my next to my jail picture.
Your mugshot.
I'm all drunk.
Okay, but here's what I hate hearing a woke Caucasians. I'll call them. I think that's nicer a word. I guess it sounds weird though. But people.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but technically it's allied white people.
Allied white people.
Allied white people.
No, but when I
should record that as a soundbite. I like
of people on boards and public office, and they're Caucasian.
What pisses me off is that they're so. I'm like, what are you ashamed of? That was like how many generations removed?
No, but what upsets me, it's just like, oh, we need to have more diversity. Then quit.
Yeah,
give your job to somebody else that looks less like you. And that's the hypocrisy. It's like I get tired of Democrats, white Democrats. They're the most racist party. And I made this comment to somebody at work, and they got mad at me. And I was like, because they're a Democrat, and it was funny because it was me, a friend that we know that were Hispanic, and I started naming off all these Mexicans, even my mother-in-law who came here illegally.
Revert back to season 2. Was it season 2?
Yeah, we talked with it a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I said all these minorities that I know that voted for Trump, and only the people that I know that voted against Trump were all white liberal Republicans, and that says a lot because I do believe that that Democrats are racist. Because if you're going to get up on a podium and say we need to have more diversity, then you need to lead the charge. quit your job
Yeah.
and fill that position with a minority, or else sit down and stop talking and enjoy the job you have and the pay you're getting.
You know what? That reminds me of this one place starts with, I'm just going to say Walmart. I used to love Walmart, bro. You go in there lately, man, you can't get no one to help you. I'm ringing the bell. I'm trying to get some razors, and everybody's walking around in a bad mood. Yeah, and I told the girl one time, right? I go, hey, can you help me? I don't have keys. Well, can you call somebody? I don't have a phone or a walkie-talkie. Well, there's a phone right there. Can you use it? I don't know how to use a phone. I'm thinking, bitch, you're on your phone all day on TikTok and whatever the hell it's called.
TikTok.
Yeah, and you don't know how to use a phone. Like, I'll call. I'll page press 0. I'm like, boom. Hey, can I get help over here? And she's like, well, I don't have keys. He has keys, but he has customers, right? I go, how about you hop on his register so you can help people that need help that are not paying right now? And she looked at me like, how dare you speak to me like this, right? I go, you know what? Look, you should be happy you have a job right now. Or you can quit and let some young kid that actually wants to work and let them persons work, because you ain't doing nothing.
It's entitlement.
She was literally just standing there. Walked by me 100 times. And she's the manager of the store, bro. And I'm like, yo, how do you not have one key can open up all these things? And each one of these locks comes with like 10 keys. So you have keys all over the place. Don't go give me, because I used to install these system things, you know. And I'm like, so I know how this works. So, you know, like, get out of here.
Yeah.
And you could open those things we're at 40 minutes.
It doesn't even feel like 40
No, it
minutes.
doesn't. Flies by.
Okay, so anyway, so we're gonna land this plane abruptly, crash landing this thing, because we
Boycott Walmart.
Boycott Walmart.
Unless they sponsor us.
I'm gonna put the logo right here.
Yeah.
Hey, don't you have some product to share? I thought from Walmart. No, not
no.
yet? Okay, yeah.
Oh, right here. I found this on the floor. 209-214-9472.
That's the phone number. So, anyways,
Give us a call.
You and I did a lot of back and forth, and I did a lot of yelling, so I'm going to give Scott the last word so we can land this plane.
Oh, yeah.
The gentle voice of the captain is going to speak now.
No, I'm sitting back here in coach, and I'm like, this is what happens when the brown people get in the cockpit. You go up, you go down, you go left, you go right. It's been a bumpy ride, but it's been fun.
Yeah, this ain't Mexico.
All right, well, that's interesting, and it's going to be interesting how things play out. Vote in your local election, and we are going to do a show. We talked about it the first episode of the season, that I think it would be really interesting to sit down and talk about our progression, because we weren't fans of Trump in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
and then where we kind of like.
I wish we could find somebody that voted for Biden and then now regrets it, but I don't think we'll find.
I don't know if we can find one, but I know we are.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Stay tuned for part 2.
He's not going to be here.
Bro.
No, but we are going to talk. Ariel, who we talked to before.
Oh yes,
who's
Season 2,
a part of the LGBT community.
Nice.
Who voted for Biden because she didn't like Trump, but who wasn't a Biden supporter, just voted for Biden because it wasn't Trump.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk to her again, and we can ask her all these questions to see what
that'd be
how
interesting.
that played out for her.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's been a great couple of weeks here on the show.
Yeah.
Next time maybe we'll think about changing before we come back on.
No, now that we're all there's equality all the way around. I only have one shirt. I'm only allowed to have one shirt.
You didn't want to show me your undershirt?
Anyway, so this has been the TAP, and you have been Tab.
I'm going to get fired, aren't I?